right. Okay. Looks like we're coming online. All right. Hopefully it's working.
We'll find out.
We sure will. All right. Let me check just on our main page. Seems to be live on our website. Great. Okay. It has worked at least that much.
I'm very impressed with your technical savvy, Steve.
Me too. So far. Okay. Great. All right. Well, as people are dialing in, joining, we should start to see them trickle in with their comments. We'll get rolling in a couple of minutes. So I've got some other features that I can play with. I'm curious how if this shows up automatically or if I need to do anything. But can you hear that? Decent volume, not offensive.
Perfect. Nope, not offensive.
Right. Great. So we don't have to fully fill empty space. All right, looks like we've got 7 people in so far. So we're just gonna wait on folks to dial in. But as you guys are coming in, actually, let me test something out. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for spending your evening with us. We'll do proper introductions when the clock turns over, but I'm gonna try something now. So those of you who are here early get to help me preview this. Can you see this little chat banner? And if so, answer the question. Let's see. So the proof will be in the pudding here. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. I always forget how that one goes. Something about pudding, though. All right, well, we know it works. So, Renee, you didn't know I could do this, but check this out. Look at that. What a great first answer. Thank you for helping me test this out.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. As folks are dialing in, thank you again so much for coming, for spending your evening with us. We will do proper introductions in a second, but for you guys that are coming in, know that we want this to be interactive. So the topic is on innovation. I couldn't be speaking with a better person about it than Tim here. Super excited to have this conversation. But as you guys come in, be ready to talk innovation. Looking forward to it. We're turning down the music a little bit. All part of the testing here.
I'm glad everyone can hear because I'm just beep-bopping along. then realizing I'm on camera, you know.
It's really nice to see you vibing along, actually. Yeah. That's super cool. Super cool. All right. Well, it is officially time. So let me begin by welcoming you all again for joining. And as people trickle in, we'll continue to do this. But tonight is a conversation around eye care innovation in 2026. We've seen a ton of innovation in the recent past, and that's only accelerating. And I'm joined tonight by Tim Fern. He is the Chief Commercial Officer at Eyebot. He recently spent a whole weekend at CES. So really tapped into all of the innovation that's happening for consumers. Tim, tell us a little bit about yourself and Eyebot, and we'll get started.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate you having me. Yeah, as you said, I was out at CES a few weeks ago, and it was an incredible experience. But before we get into that, I'll share a little bit about what we're doing at Eyebot. Eyebot is really meant to simplify the customer journey to get vision correction. Our aim is to really take what happens in a doctor's clinic and simplify it, make it more efficient, but ensure that we have a great experience, not only for our patient, but also for the doctors who work with Eyebot to deliver prescriptions to those folks. So we're really excited to be, working on this webinar and sharing what we're up to, and talking more broadly about what we're seeing in the eye care space when it comes to innovation. And I know we'll get into that in the next couple minutes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you could, in a nutshell, where did Eyebot come from and where are you today?
Yeah, absolutely. Eyebot was actually an idea that was born probably more than 12 or 13 years ago at this point. The founder of our company set out to build one of the first cell phone based refraction systems. And very quickly, while conceptually it made a ton of sense, there were limits that presented themselves in terms of the form factor of a mobile phone being used for refraction. And fast forward almost 10 years from sort of the learnings of that project, Matthias and Jack, the two co-founders of Eyebot, set out to build sort of a patient-first solution, meaning what's the way that people actually want to interact with technology to get a well-tolerated prescription. And instead of thinking about technology as it existed, we started with the customer experience. How do we make it enjoyable, efficient, but also while still maintaining a high level of clinical safety and integrating one of the most important parts, which is the doctor, into that process. Eyebot was really designed over the course of the last 5 years, and we've gone live commercially within the last year. So we've recently announced some partnerships with leading retailers across the US, with more to come. But we're really excited about expanding access to vision correction to places that may have been left out of the mix for far too long. And I think one of the missions of our company is to really make vision care, vision correction accessible at the touch of a button for everyone equally.
Well, I think that's amazing. And I know a lot of people here, and no surprise to you, that your sort of splash in the industry came with some, let's say, responses, right? But before we get into that, and I think it's valuable to have that conversation because in our conversations, you've made it clear what Eyebot's goals are and how imperative doctors are to your process. So we'll get into that in just a moment. But when we first started talking, I spoke with you about a client that I had in Blackfoot, Idaho, and he had a second practice in Arco, Idaho, and he was paying for rent and inventory and staff at a practice that he only had time to actually get to at most twice a month. And when I started consulting with him, my conversation was like numerical. The numbers don't make any sense. And I said, why is this business still open? He says, it's not really a business. I'm doing it because there's nobody there who can help them. And I feel obligated. I feel like it is my responsibility because I'm as close an eye doctor as they have. So I go there whenever I can. And when you first started telling me about what Eyebot can do, it felt like genuine innovation to allow a doctor who genuinely cares for this community, this underserved community, to make it feasible for them to serve them without having to spend actual thousands of dollars to do so.
And you hit the nail on the head. Our aim is to increase the surface area of impact for doctors. There are tons of places across our country, and frankly, even more places around the world, that need great clinical oversight, but there need to be new ways to deliver that care. And that's exactly what Eyebot set out to do. The way you explained that particular person's scenario is exactly where we see Eyebot slotting into the eye care ecosystem. You have a doctor who has a clinic where he provides a tremendous amount of valuable care to the community. But then there are also these other there's the hub, and there's these other spokes of opportunity that doctors can serve really, really well, keep businesses going, deliver really great prescriptions for eyeglasses, but do it in a way where just one person can deliver so much more impact in a broader area. And I think that is the sweet spot for what Eyebot can really do, is expanding that surface area of impact for a doctor like you just described.
Excellent. I wanted to make sure we put that up front. I know, as I mentioned, the response from the AOA and other organizations hasn't been stellar. And I've been in the industry long enough to know that there's a lot of reactivity to anything that seems to upset the status quo. Working at Anagram has been part of that as well, certainly. So it's something I want to make sure that we're upfront about it. And I really appreciate your candor in this conversation, because it is empowering to eye doctors as opposed to the opposite. So thank you for that clarity. Now, I did mention at the top, for those of you who are just dialing in, that Tim had spent some time at CES, which is the Consumer Consumer Entertainment Expo?
Consumer Electronics Show.
Consumer Electronics Show. I can never remember those things.
Yeah.
Consumer Electronics shows. And that's where a lot of tech companies go in. And I'm sure AI was a big part of that. So let us know, how was CES? What did you learn? What did you see? What are you most excited about?
Yeah, I think for me I think was my 13th or 14th CES. So I've seen a lot of stuff. And for me, what was exciting was sort of the post-COVID upswing is happening again. This was the largest number of attendees since 2020. And I think you could feel the energy and excitement at the show, where somewhere around 150,000 people attended across a variety of venues. And what I think was really interesting, of course, AI was front and center in just about everything. And what resonated about Eyebot was sort of our anti-AI approach. And I think that while everyone came to our booth sort of asking the questions like, tell us how AI is making this better. It's not. It's in fact rapid data collection and prescriptions written by doctors around the country. It's the least AI thing here. But what I think was really compelling was the way in which artificial intelligence was actually solving problems in real life. These weren't just science fiction concepts. The thing that resonated the most with people, and we were in a section of the show mainly focused on healthcare. And what I thought was really compelling and interesting were products that were helping people more deeply understand their bodies and their health in ways that were maybe not so obvious even a year or 2 years ago. Having been in the consumer electronics world for some time, I worked at a company called Jawbone, which was one of the first companies to build Bluetooth wearables and Bluetooth headphones.
Yeah.
But really, it was sort of this the introduction of the quantified self. And what I think is really progressing is the quantified self is now full of much more rich and compelling data and understanding, but presenting it in a way to the general consumer that they can actually take action on some of the things that they're learning about themselves to improve their lives. What started with a Jawbone wrist-worn wearable has now moved to Oura rings and things along those lines, and a bunch of other health scanning technology that was super compelling and interesting. To be fair, I didn't get super far away from my booth for those 4 days, but I could see what I could see, though, is that people were engaging with products that help them learn more about themselves. And you could see those sort of sparkle moments when people learned something about themselves that they could take action on. And what I think is so exciting is that health is now going beyond just appointments with your doctor. Health is appointments plus those moments in between where you can actually learn more about yourself and take action. So that's what I'm excited about when it comes to consumer technology and health in particular.
That's such an interesting term, the quantified self. Is that a Jawbone trademark? Is that a Tim Fern original?
No, I can't take credit for any of those things. It's actually the person who talks about it the most is our head of marketing, Nick Leonard. So shout out to Nick, who I don't think is listening in tonight. But that it's really that essence has been developing, I would say, for over the course of the last 10 years or so.
Got it. Awesome. Well, Tim, this is meant to be an interactive conversation, and we've got a couple of questions coming in from the various venues. So I'm going to throw one up on screen. This one I think is directed a little bit more towards me, but I want to highlight it. So somebody asks, new to the eye care industry, with this in mind, are vision plans technically insurance? I ask because they seem to be a savings plan to be redeemed only once a year. It's a really great question, and as you're new to the industry, it makes so much sense that you're asking it. So I will say that I've been having this conversation for decades now, which is super weird to say, but vision plans are not insurance. And the term insurance typically refers to the alignment of risk over a low risk pool. So when you get car insurance, what you're paying for is access to a pool of resources that hopefully you'll never have to use. But if something catastrophic happens, you have access to those funds, and it's way better for a bunch of people to pool their resources and benefit from that availability than for everybody to sort of have to deal with it for themselves. Now, that in no way reflects what vision plans are. Vision plans, as we know them, are a preset pricing construct for certain services that you're going to get pretty regularly. So things that most vision plans cover used loosely also are an annual eye exam, but not an annual eye exam as the eye doctor would give you, an annual eye exam as the vision plan determined some 30 years ago in Sacramento. So, keeping that in mind, and the same thing applies to frames and lenses. They offer discounts. It's not coverage, and it's not a response to a condition or something that happened acutely. Once somebody needs glasses, they kind of need glasses. So it happens over and over again. It's regular maintenance stuff. So it isn't exactly an insurance plan. I've likened to calling it a discount plan with extra steps, right? Where it's prepaid by your employer to some degree, if that's where your plan comes from, and you prepay some small amount every paycheck, and then you've got access to some benefits over time. But those benefits don't typically outweigh the investment you put in, but the investment happens over the course of a year. So in short, not really insurance. The follow-up question that was asked is, if it's not insurance, why are they seen as insurance? And that is a really interesting question, because that's how they want to be seen. That's how they position themselves. And there was a time when somebody had medical insurance, they had health insurance, and that was that. But then with the advent of dental insurance, that changed a little bit. And then once dental insurance hit, then some pretty clever people thought, well, we could do this with vision. What if we did this with vision? And then it certainly happened with vision, and it has caught on, and it's something that businesses offer now as a means of recruiting employees. And this is interesting. I'll get off this topic in just a second. But it's really interesting to me if you think about how insurance is actually purchased by employers. A broker comes in and sells to the employer. They sell health insurance, they sell dental insurance, and they sell vision insurance, always in that order, always at that level of priority. The person making the decision for which plans they get, they're not an expert in vision insurance or dental insurance or health insurance, really. What their task is to get a good deal for their company so they can recruit good talent for their company. It has nothing to do with healthcare or eye care or dental care. So I could talk about this forever. In the interest of my guest, I'm not going to continue to do that.
I love it. I love it.
But thank
I love
you for
learning
indulging
too.
me. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
We've got another comment. This one's directly targeted at you, Tim. So this comes from LinkedIn. Eyebot's mission around accessibility really resonates with the work I've done building iOS apps for blind and low vision users. How in Eyebot's product design process do accessibility considerations come in? And what have you learned from users with visual impairments? I love this question. What a great question.
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. What I can say with a great deal of confidence is that accessibility is at the core of everything we've built, from our hardware, from our software, and I think about it with for users that are less abled, but then also as we think about accessibility for language and all of these other things. One of the unique elements of Eyebot is it is driven by hardware that we've designed from soup to nuts. Everything inside of our product has been built by our company, by our team. It's not an amalgamation of other people's technology stuffed into a kiosk to make a really slick product. It took us 4.5 years to build a thing that worked in the way that it should, not only for fully abled people, but also less abled people as well. And I think that that is an incredible part of our company's mission. Is when I said we want to make vision care accessible to everyone at a touch of a button, we mean it. And we took the long, hard road to go and do those things. Our design team is our design lead is actually an expert in accessibility. And that was one of the sort of, as we were building out our team, was thinking about how do we build a team with the expertise to deliver care in a meaningful and impactful way for as many people as possible. And we've learned a ton as we've gone out into market to continuously make our product better. And what is so unique is that the pencil is never down in optimizing those experiences for visually impaired people, for people that are hearing impaired. Those are opportunities that we have to continuously make that product better and better and better, such that we can wrap our arms around a bigger part of the population, both domestically here in the US, but as we think about what vision care looks like outside of our country, there's a tremendous opportunity to serve people there as well too.
I think that's so important and not something we discuss, I think, often enough, is accessibility. I mean, there are plenty of eye care professionals that focus on low vision, that focus on underserved communities, but a lot of the technology that's built, a lot of the typical in practice equipment, while it is ADA compliant and accessible, it isn't necessarily built for the vision impaired or otherwise mobility impaired folks. And certainly even getting into building sometimes can be a challenge. But having I think what you said earlier, going from having something on a phone to having something in a pre-built technology housing that is the same experience for everybody. Everybody can follow instructions that are pre-built. They don't have to wrestle with, their individual setup. I think that goes a long way to adding to the accessibility conversation.
And it does. And I think, again, it was incredibly difficult to build a solution that served so many people. And one of the stories that resonates for me was actually, it happened just before we left for CES. A woman in her 30s who is hearing impaired, had never had a full comprehensive eye exam. And the reason was that she felt like she wouldn't be able to communicate explicitly with the doctor when going through the process. So they were unable to find a doctor who could deliver an exam through American Sign Language. And they were able to use Eyebot, just visually reading instructions on the device itself, removing sort of the audio requirement. And we were able to get this person who was severely myopic a pair of glasses for the first time, right? So the barriers that this person had experienced were reduced and lowered because there was an alternative solution to getting a well-tolerated prescription that fit the way that they lived life. And for me, that's, again, if I go back to what really makes Eyebot hum, are stories like that, where previously someone who was not served is now served and on their way to getting the care that they need, and ultimately, hopefully, getting the confidence and courage to go seek out comprehensive care in a setting that they should ultimately get to.
We've got a bunch more questions to get to, and I'm super excited to share those with you. But before we do, you shared with me, and I hope this isn't too personal, but you shared your experience as an aspiring patient of Eyebot. How did that go for you?
Yeah, not terribly well, but exactly as it should have. That's the right answer. So I am extremely, extremely, extremely nearsighted. So I'm a -8, -8.5. And for me, what happened was I was actually punted out of the system in the most appropriate way because I'm not a patient that Eyebot should serve. And we have a very defined rubric of who can actually receive care from Eyebot. And for me, well, of course, I was disappointed that I didn't get the output of a prescription signed by a doctor. For me, it signaled restraint and intent and a very clear scope on who we can serve. And I think that that's incredibly, incredibly important.
This is not necessarily related to Eyebot, but personally, what I look for in the people that I'm closest to are sense of humor, intellectual curiosity, and integrity. Those are kind of like the three pillars of the people that I'm closest to in the world. And I didn't like seek them out, but the people that I'm closest to all have those things. And it is a rare commodity in an organization to have integrity built into the process for the care of your end consumer and for the care of the industry in which they exist. So really important for me to highlight that because I know there's a lot of trepidation around stuff like this. But if you think about a patient like Tim who has a really high prescription, Eyebot's not for them, and Eyebot knows that. I think that's really important as a distinction to draw. There's a really great question here, so I'm going to throw this up and read it. As a small business owner, our goal for insurance for the team is to solve problems and make their lives better. I think there are progressive companies that are making decisions about insurance to make sure our people are well cared for, even at the determinant of company short-term profits. So I think there's an interesting conversation to be had around there. There are insurances and health insurances that do a better job of providing for their patient's actual need. But the truth, at least when we're talking about vision insurance, as we know it today, is most reimbursements have not been reevaluated or haven't been meaningfully reevaluated in 25 years. Think about what the world looked like 25 years ago. I draw this example. I've been in eye care for 25 years. I started as an optician when I was 16. And when I was 16, I used my first paycheck to get an oil change. That oil change cost me $18 in 2001. Do you remember when the last time you got an oil change, Tim?
I do.
How much was it?
$99.
$99. And sometimes it's more. It's in the $150, $180, and whatever it is. But let's say it's $99. That's 5 times more expensive in 2025, 2026 than it was in 2001. Now, complicated question: is the oil different?
Nope.
No, it's literally millions of years old. It's the same. It's the same oil. So, but it's more expensive because everything around it, everything that goes into it is more expensive. But when I was working in 2001, I worked for Pearl Vision in Buffalo Grove, Illinois. We were in network with Eymed, and we accepted, eye exam patients. And our total revenue for an Eymed eye exam in 2001 was $40. If the patient had a $10 copay, we got 30 from Eymed. If they had a $0 copay, we got 40 from Eymed. And candidly, it was inadequate in 2001, but it's 2026 now. Any guesses what the average Eymed reimbursement for an eye exam is today?
Still $40.
Still $40. So it's not like cost of doing business has not changed, right? It's gotten more expensive. Rent is more expensive. Utilities are more expensive. Practices have more stuff to do and stuff to pay for. And every staff member costs more and we expect them to do more. Like, all of this is true. So I think, Martin, you make a really good point. There are insurance companies that are doing their best in the system that we are in, and there are insurance companies that are not. Or there are companies that call themselves insurance that are definitely not. And that's the distinction I'd like to draw. And that's what Anagram is really built to do. We're built to help practices make better insurance decision as it relates to vision insurance. And we're built to help them make better insurance decisions for medical insurance. In the chat, we've got some Anagram account managers, people with decades of experience in billing and understanding how insurance works, what you can and can't bill for, what you can expect to generate in terms of revenue. And I know our audience doesn't love talking about revenue as a primary focus, but something that I always try to pull people back to is if your practice is not profitable, you will not be able to take care of any patients.
And I would say one additional thing to add about Eyebot is, as someone who grew up until the age of 18 without a vision plan or managed care or whatever sort of you want to call it, the barrier to getting vision care, whether real or imagined, was a thing. And what we are aiming to do is, in terms of getting someone into glasses as seamlessly and simply and as low as cost as possible, we are trying to do that in ways that don't require someone to have a managed care plan or to have vision insurance. Where there's Eyebot and an optical retailer and a doctor reviewing these sessions, we can unlock prescriptions and ultimately get people onto that pathway for comprehensive care. I think, we want to be a responsible entry point for people to get the vision correction they need, whether or not they have insurance or an FSA or an HSA plan. This is an entry point to get people what they need to ultimately help them live better lives on a daily basis.
That being at the forefront of what you guys are doing is so encouraging to me. I've got a two-part comment and question, so I'm going to put one up and then I'll put the second one up after. From LinkedIn, I work at the intersection of accessibility, mobile apps, and healthcare, so it's exciting to see Eyebot push equitable vision care forward. Couldn't agree more. Equitable vision care, equity throughout healthcare is vitally important to our future. It's part of the innovation that we'd like to discuss here. So thank you for that. But there's a follow-up here. And I think this is actually quite poignant. Vision care is deeply personal. And Eyebot is asking users to trust a self-service experience. Excellent point. So what design or product decisions help build confidence for first-time users or anyone who's skeptical of automated health tools? Man, what a great question. I promise we did not pay Priyank, but thank you.
Yeah, this is a great question. And actually, one of the decisions that we made was to deploy Eyebot into places where there's a person there to act as a guide through that process, whether it's in many cases, and frankly, in most cases, an optician or perhaps a retail associate who's helping sell glasses. That person is actually there as a guide to facilitate that interaction between this user and Eyebot, because the point that you bring up is exactly it. There is trepidation and concern for something new where people have just not experienced it before. And admittedly, we went out into the world with an aspiration to have people go through this process themselves without guidance. But what we saw was what the human element is actually what makes Eyebot so special, whether it's the human element of the optician who's there to guide the person and maybe answer a few questions and help them if they get stuck, or to take that prescription that a doctor has signed through Eyebot system and help someone select the glasses that are the best fit for them. The human touch is not being replaced by Eyebot. In fact, it's just increasing the volume of people that we can serve collectively. So it's a great question, because automation has many, many benefits, but there are far more benefits of having friendly people to help go along on that journey with you.
Yeah, I think in a lot of the innovation conversations, many people are talking about what technology can do, what AI can do, what computers can do, and all that's super cool. I don't want to diminish that at all. But at the end of the day, and actually at the beginning of the day, we are all still people, and we want that connection with other people. Yeah, we want things to be convenient and fast and effective and useful and all of that stuff, but absent human connection, who cares? What's the point?
And I can tell you before joining Eyebot, I was at this small company called Facebook, and we were working on a product.
Who?
Not many people have, but I was working on VR as a product. And what I sort of noticed, while VR had a ton of superpowers, what it did was isolate people, and people want superpowers in real life. They don't want superpowers in a digital life. And I think that the human connection is a irreplaceable thing. And it will always be at the heart of everything Eyebot does. And for any technology company that I work for, the human side of it cannot be ignored. And I think you can see is that even if you invest $70 billion into a thing, it doesn't mean that people will accept it and adopt it if it fundamentally changes our human operating system. And I think that's an important thing to call out.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, there's a question directly for you, Tim. Will somebody from Eyebot be at the TOA event next month?
There will not be someone at the TOA event next month. We are looking for feedback on places that we should be. We're still a relatively small team, so we're trying to just explore and understand what events are important. But if there's an invitation to events or a place where we should go, give us a holler. Steve's been great at helping guide us. But we're always open to exploring new places and meeting new people.
And this is a great place to do that. If you're in the chat and there's an event that you'd like to go to, throw it in the chat, and then maybe Anagram will be able to be there. Maybe we're already booked to go there. Maybe Eyebot can show up. But there are so many events. I was talking to somebody and I learned there's something like 850 events annually in the eye care industry. And some of them are big and really well known. Some of them are tiny and are not publicized. You've got to be sort of in the loop to hear about it. But if there's an event that you like, let us know. Otherwise, we can't know to spend the time or the resources to get there. And that's one of the reasons I find conversations like this so valuable. I learn a ton. Hopefully you're learning a ton. And there's more that we can do together because of it. All right, I'm going to go back to another question that I skipped over to not make this too Anagram centric, but I want to make sure we answer it before we go. Why are the managed care plans not challenged on in-network and out-of-network scheme? Well, you're talking to the right people. Actually, Anagram has been challenging that scheme for well over a decade. We are the only software company in the eye care industry that addresses out-of-network eligibility verification and claim submission. When I say our goal is to help practices make better vision plan decisions, this is part of it. We've built a suite of software tools that allow you to see your patient however they're coming to you. If you're in network, you can verify their eligibility with our toolkit. If they're out of network, you can verify their eligibility and file a claim. If they have health insurance and you're providing medical treatment for their benefit for their healthcare, we can help you file those claims and optimize that claim submission and actually improve your cash flow and save yourself time. So we're out here challenging that scheme every day, and maybe they don't love it, but we do, and our customers do. So if you have questions about it, reach out to us. It's goanagram.com. Hopefully that's where you're watching this webinar, but fill out a form, ask questions. We've got a team of experts ready to help you make better decisions. So don't hesitate to ask. Whew, okay, I think we're caught up. Tim, at CES, you got to see a lot of innovative stuff coming down the pike. Was there any one thing that you were able to see that sort of you're kind of keeping tabs on, or were you just too busy?
No, I think the one thing that sort of caught my eye, I'm not sure if it's applicable to me because I'm not a terribly good athlete nor terribly flexible or have great endurance, but there were a ton of really interesting exoskeleton companies who were at CES. And these were not just exoskeleton companies that were trying to give people superpowers. These were fundamental health devices that are helping people from a mobility perspective, whether it was walking or arm movements or things along those lines. And again, it was these moments as a person who I'm a salesperson. I got to see the sparkle in people's eyes when they would experience products like this. And you could see the unlock of what is actually possible with technology like this. And this was one where I have no doubt these are incredibly expensive devices and maybe not super scalable at this point. But I believe that with the level of investment across a bunch of different companies who are thinking about this, there are ways to unlock just so much capability for people who desperately need technology like this to make their lives better, to make them, give them opportunities that perhaps they're missing out on. But that was one area where I was blown away to just see what could be unlocked with technology like that.
I've been floored by it as well. The Boston Dynamics robotics company. They've been putting out hilarious videos and like kind of terrifying videos for a really long time. But to see how far they've come just in the last couple of years has been both encouraging and sort of scary. But you're right, like the application of that innovation, kind of immeasurable, because it's just all that's limiting us is our imagination. One of the things that I've seen to be tremendously cool is the improvement in prosthesis. People who can control their prosthetic arms via Bluetooth, which that's insane. Like, when I've been a giant nerd my whole life. I've been a video gamer, and I remember as a kid, there was this one baseball game. I promise this is related. There's one baseball game called Baseball 2020 for the Sega Genesis. It came out in like 1992, and I never really liked baseball generally, but this version of baseball had robots in it and androids, and this version of baseball was super cool. So when 2020 rolled around and all we got was a pandemic and no robot baseball, I was very upset. But I think we're getting closer to having, that kind of ability where, people can control prosthesis with their mind from a distance. There's this one video I saw of this young lady who had was missing both arms, but was fully functional because of these prosthesis, and that's really cool. But then she can control them when they are not attached to her, and that I can't really wrap my head around.
Yeah, technology itself cool. Technology with real world application way cooler. And I think that's where I'm always excited to see. I love when novel things are developed and built, but when they have application that makes people's lives better, that's where we win, in my view.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, like the exoskeleton is cool to talk about in like Aliens, right? But when you see what it actually does for a person, to take somebody who has difficulty moving around, and we're pretty lucky in the States where most of our buildings and sidewalks are ADA compliant, but around the world, the ADA isn't a thing. So sidewalks are rocky and steep and uneven, and a wheelchair just doesn't really work. But what we're seeing with exoskeletons is starting to become real. We're seeing innovation in restoring sight and restoring hearing. And actually, a question that I had for you about CES and kind of your experience with Eyebot, I'm starting to hear more rumblings of an overlap between vision care and hearing care. More audiology stuff is being built into eye care, and more eye care stuff is being built into audiology. Are you seeing something similar? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, admittedly, I'm not an expert in the area, but what I can see is there are sort of these parallel paths of smart glasses and then sort of what can be unlocked from glasses, the glasses form factor for hearing as well too. Actually, the booth immediately behind our Eyebot placement was a company, very small company, thinking about new ways to bring hearing care into glasses. And I think what we're continuously seeing is AI glasses, smart glasses, whatever you want to call them, are finding their place in the world. And people are finding, one, the real application is actually just seeing better. That's what glasses do. They help you see better. But then also there are these other things that come along with it. And I think, with new companies like Nuance leading the way, from Essilor really delivering unique and compelling propositions, I think we're going to see more of that continuous advancement and perhaps a blending of those two product groups as time goes on.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's kind of inevitable at this point, just from the advent of like mastoid bone conduction headphones. Like once that became a thing, it seemed inevitable, and it's proving to be the case. And I actually think even it predates it. So I've been an optician for a million years, and it was really common for me when I was helping a patient pick out their eyewear that when I was talking to them, if they didn't have their glasses on, they would say, "I can't hear you." And like I think they meant it sincerely. Like their
Right.
senses were messed up, and like they weren't ready.
Right.
So I think it's been an interesting progression from then to now. We got a user leaving, but thank you for being here. We appreciate your questions. All right, another one for you, Tim. Back from Priyank again. It was a small company. Looking ahead, what excites you most about the next phase of vision care and vision care innovation hardware, AI assisted diagnostics, or accessibility driven software?
Yeah, from a vision care innovation perspective, I think that there's an immense amount of room to run, not only across prescription delivery, but across comprehensive care as time goes on. While our form factor today is not perhaps the most glamorous piece of hardware ever built, it is pretty functional. What I'm excited about for Eyebot is how do we take the technology that we've developed, our core intellectual property, and deliver that into smaller form factors as time goes on to make it more deployable, right? A few 100-pound kiosk isn't the most mobile thing ever created, but there is opportunity to think about how do we take core tech, put it into a smaller form factor, and deliver it out into the world. I think there are other companies outside of Eyebot doing really cool stuff when it comes to artificial intelligence and comprehensive eye health. Retinal imaging with AI review plus doctor oversight is really compelling and interesting. And I think there will be plenty of opportunity to expand the horizons of what artificial intelligence can do, but to do it responsibly and with proper clinical oversight and care. And I think that that is the continuous balance that we should be striking is innovation plus clinical oversight on an ongoing basis. From an accessibility perspective, I think until we can serve, the entire population, we probably won't put our pencil down. That's just, again, if we're serious about our mission, and of course, a mission statement is aspirational, but aspirational means your work keeps going. And I think we are looking at more and more ways to serve people domestically here in the US, but how do we also take the technology that we've developed and make it accessible to people around the world? If you think about what Eyebot can deliver with some mobile internet connectivity and power, there's a massive opportunity for us and for other people who are thinking about helping people see better and live better.
That's fantastic. So, this question I'm about to ask you will probably have a little bit of preamble. I apologize for that, but I'm going to need to set the stage. So, when I started in eye care 25 years ago, we were pretty well inundated with vision plans everywhere. VSP, iMed, Davis, Superior, all of them were maybe not in full swing, but pretty much in full swing. The big box retailers were on the market. It was right around then that Luxottica purchased Cole. So LensCrafters purchased Pearl Vision and Target Optical, and that sort of consolidation began in earnest. The people that I learned opticianry from had been in the industry for 30 years before I ever got there, and would tell me about a time when an optometrist could open their doors, be a generalist optometrist, see eye exam patients, do refractions, fit glasses, and have a successful, thriving, vibrant business. Now, that is by and large not the case anymore, in part because of the cost of everything increasing, in part because of the way vision plans have operated, and in part because the scope of optometric care has increased so much over the past 25 years. Optometrists now and optometry now is way different than it was 30 years ago. So, how does the expanding scope of optometric care into more specialization, and how does that concept interplay with what Eyebot does?
Yeah, our aim is to let doctors spend more time operating at the top of their license, allow them to spend more time in the chair doing work, the meaningful work of helping people with more complex cases, and allowing Eyebot to do the thing that they were doing actually already, which is gathering information to deliver a well-tolerated prescription. We just happen to be doing it in a slightly different way. The way we describe it is same professionals, different tools, broader access. And I think what we are really trying to do is give the doctor more time back in their day to allow them to serve those patients that need their hands-on comprehensive care more, while still unlocking a successful and thriving optical business to help people get glasses more simply and more efficiently. And ultimately, as you said, unless you're running a profitable business, you're not going to be able to serve people well. And what we aim to do is help you free up time, but also run your practice more efficiently by using a product like Eyebot to help unlock the potential of optical in the front of the house, but also get people into the pathway for comprehensive care. Think about it from just a pure time perspective. I know ODs that I talk to every day who are booked months and months in advance because they may be the sole practitioner in a given area. And what people may do is, because they can't get an appointment for a few months, they may opt out of care entirely and just say, no, thank you very much. Our aim is, how do we get them set on the journey of getting vision correction, but also get them into the education pathway and the care pathway such that they deeply understand the value of comprehensive care over time. So a bit of a long-winded answer to your question and preamble.
Long question, yeah.
Yeah, that's how we see it. Unlock time to spend more focused time with complex cases, but then also still have a thriving optical business should you choose to participate in that beyond just delivering care to patients in the chair.
One of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation with you is, one, to help educate our audience on Eyebot and what you do and potentially what you bring to the table. But in part, maybe selfishly, because there's so much overlap between the kinds of conversations that I have with practices, and I imagine the kinds of conversations you have with practices. When I speak with OD owners and practice managers, and we start talking about the economics of vision plans in their practice, they will say, like, well, I don't have time to build my specialty. I don't have the time to do the math and see if I should drop a plan. I'm booked out 8 weeks in advance, and all of my staff are fully busy and they're borderline burnt out. But what am I going to do? I'm, in high demand and my business is growing, and all of that on the surface seems pretty reasonable, right? They want to take care of patients. So the idea of stepping away from a plan and potentially not seeing those patients again is daunting, is scary. But then you think about some of the things that lead to burnout, some of the things that lead to them being booked out 8 weeks in advance, some of the things that lead to them not being satisfied in the work that they're doing. If I'm booked out 8 weeks in advance and I accept every vision plan under the sun, I'm doing basically refraction work all day long. And the thing that I'm passionate about as an eye doctor, I almost never get to do. And that is, even if you don't feel it acutely every day over day, week over week, it weighs on you. And one of the reasons I love the industry the way that I do is every doctor I talk to is out to make their patients' lives better, out to make their community better. And they have, a general skill set that helps everybody they see, for sure. I don't want to diminish that at all. But they also have specialist skills that only they have. In eye care, there are low vision specialists, there are dry eye specialists, there are aesthetics specialists, there are oculomic specialists. There's so many different things that an optometrist can do. And I think many of them are so afraid of losing what they already have that they can't see what they could have instead.
And I think what we're saying is, you don't have to give up something commercially or from a care perspective when using Eyebot. And I think that that's an important distinction. I believe that from the bottom of my heart when I say that is, I do believe that we can help practices perform at a higher level from a care perspective, but also from a commercial perspective. And I don't think those things have to be mutually exclusive. And every time we have a conversation with a practice manager or a doctor about what Eyebot can unlock, when we actually get to the root opportunity, again, when I talk about that moment where someone says, like, yeah, I kind of get it now, that's where we get excited. And are we a fit for everyone? No, we're not. And I'm not insinuating that we are. But what we do want to have is, let's have the conversation about what Eyebot unlocks for the optometrist, for the practice manager, for the folks who are working out front, helping people get vision correction. And I think that's where, if we have the willingness to try to find the common ground, I think we'll find there's a lot more in common than there is that sort of pulls at the strings and separates us.
That's fantastic. I couldn't agree more. As we're getting closer to the end of the session, I want to make sure that there's a chance for you to share with the audience here, where is Eyebot going to be next? If somebody wants to see this in action, what's the best way for them to go about it?
Yeah, so if you happen to live in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, we have about 20 units deployed across the state where you can go and try Eyebot at a local Walmart or Sam's Club. We've got more coming in the months ahead, places we'll be going. As far as experiencing Eyebot, if you're out at Vision Expo in March, you'll be able to find Eyebot there as well too. And we're trying to find more places to show what we're doing, but more importantly, to have the conversations. I think, what you'll come to find about me, the rest of our team, is that we're ready for the dialogue. And we want to just get to know folks and learn. I'm not an industry expert by any stretch of the imagination. I'm an industry expert in the sense that I've been wearing glasses or contacts for 35 years. So I know a little bit about the customer journey. And that's what I'm obsessed with, is how do we make the customer journey as impactful and useful and meaningful as possible.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I have been in the industry for a long time. My prescription hasn't changed very much over the last couple of years, although I did turn 40 last year. So that is about to change. Woohoo. But that'll be, I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. But for us at Anagram, our goal is to help practices make better decisions as it relates, and I mentioned this before, as it relates to insurances. We are also obsessed with building the best technology in the industry for this, to solve problems, to save time, to generate more revenue, so you can see more patients. So much of our conversation, so much of the industry's conversation is about discusses what's not going that well, or the big box players that are causing problems, or the various kinds of competition that are going on. And one of the reasons I wanted to have this part of the year is to talk about the positive things that are actually happening, the innovation, the changes, the things that you can do today that'll make your practice better tomorrow. And I'm confident in saying that Anagram is a company fighting that fight every single day. And I know Eyebot and Tim are doing the same.
We are. And I think that is we want to ensure that we are additive and beneficial and willing to help people drive their practices forward. I think, as Steve mentioned, there's a little bit of, there was a lot happening with Eyebot from an announcement perspective and things. But ultimately, what I can say is, if you have questions about the work that we're doing, you can ask me, and we're willing to have that conversation.
Excellent. Tim, I'm going to throw your email address into the chat, but if you could tell the audience where to get in touch with you or with Eyebot, and then we can wrap up from here.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's tim@eyebot.tech. You can also visit our website where you can submit a form and reach out and ask your questions, whether they're clinical in nature or commercial, whatever the case may be. We'll find the proper home for all of your questions.
Excellent. And if you have questions about Anagram, goanagram.com, fill out the form. One of our team will be happy to answer any of your questions. If you have questions for me directly, it's steve@goanagram.com. You may have heard it throughout this presentation. I've been having this conversation for actual decades. So the ins and outs of insurance are very much in my wheelhouse, and I've helped hundreds of practices, and Anagram has helped thousands of practices see their way clear of some of the, let's say, lesser vision plans in the market, and do so successfully without, Tim, to your earlier point, without sacrificing patient care, without sacrificing community benefit, without being a lesser doctor. So do reach out to us, ask your questions, and anybody here who wants to fill out a form and tell us what our next topic should be. I love doing these webinars. I think they're super valuable. And Tim, I can't thank you enough for your time and your insight. I've learned so much. Thank you very much. Any final words before we wrap up?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, to learn a lot from you as well too, but look forward to the opportunity to do the next one.
Excellent. Everybody, thank you for joining us. We got one last thing. I really enjoyed hearing both perspectives, seeing Eyebot out in the real world, and understanding how Anagram supports growth connects a lot with accessibility work. Priyank, thank you for being here. Your questions were fantastic. Yeah, feel free to reach out at your convenience. Everybody, thank you again for being here. Tim, thanks once again. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
See ya.